drone fans, Rick here again from Drone Valley. So today I wanted to spend a little bit of time and talk about the re-release of the Karma product from GoPro and why I think it's pretty important that this product made a comeback. I'm hoping that it finds a fan base out there because I really feel like it's an important step forward for the drone community in general, and I'm going to give you 5 solid reasons why I think Karma 2.0 deserves a second look. So stay tuned and I'll get into it. The first reason has to do with the Karma system itself. When that product first hit the market, I took a hard look at it and thought to myself, that's a groundbreaking technology in so many ways, because unlike a lot of other quads that were out at the time that did a wonderful job, high resolution cameras, a lot of advanced functionality and crash avoidance and piloting technologies built in, the Karma's approach to the world was to build a complete system. I think the people at GoPro, if you look at their history, really have always been looking for new ways to exploit the GoPro camera, to get it into a unique position to record something that no one's ever recorded before. And their history has shown that they've come out with new mounts that fit on a helmet and go on a set of skis or go on the side of a car, and they're always looking for new ways for their consumer base to use those cameras and capture exciting footage. I don't think there was ever a board meeting at GoPro where they said, we're here to capture the drone market. Let's go knock everybody else off their pedestal and go hard against the leaders in that space. I think they really were just looking for a different way for their users to be able to use that camera. Now, the reason I say it's groundbreaking is they've got a couple of firsts in that drone. Whether you love them or you hate them, you've got to admit the fact that they hit the market first with a foldable drone. I know the Mavic is wildly popular now and it's clobbering them as far as sales go, but that Karma was really the first one that had a foldable drone in the market. The second thing they did was create this ecosystem that allowed you to pull the gimbal off, the stabilized gimbal off the quad, put it on a stick and walk around with a stabilized gimbal. Now again, if I'm picking on DJI makes that with the Osmo product, but they're two separate products. So if you want a Phantom, you've got to buy an Osmo to do that gimbal stabilization. With the GoPro, you're moving, again, the camera from the drone, which is a flying platform, to a stick, which is a walk-around platform, maybe to a helmet cam if you're skiing. So there's versatility built into that system that really makes it, as a sum of all the parts, a lot more a powerful solution than a lot of the drones that are out there. So I think one of the reasons I'm a real big fan of this product succeeding is that I think that'll drive other companies to start thinking along those lines. If you guys have watched a lot of my clips, I've been hard on the DJI guys because I would love to have a removable camera that I could either replace the camera on the quad with something different, or I could use that camera on a stick and not have to buy a separate Osmo product. So I'm hoping that as this becomes popular, maybe it'll become more commonplace and it'll drive other companies to think along those lines. The second thing I think is really important about this is that GoPro is always, again, looking for ways to put that camera in unique situations, so it didn't have to be an incredibly sophisticated drone to accomplish that. It just had to fly. I think it was really neat that they put together the system that had the integrated controller. So when you bought the drone, you've got the controller and you can flip it open and start flying. You don't have to worry about cables or connections or software. It was all together. And if you see some of the other drone companies, that's the way they're heading now with their technology. So when I talk about their entry into the market space, for me, it was kind of a wake-up call because there was a lot of innovation built into that. And I know that if we're being cantankerous about it, we could say, well, yeah, but it was late and it was nowhere near as sophisticated. It was big and goofy looking compared to some of the stuff on the market. But again, if your core mission as GoPro is to put another platform in your consumer's hands that allows them to now fly their camera, home run. So that's reason number 1. Another reason I think the Karma deserves a second look is their after-sales support. Karma is the only drone I know that I can go on their website and order every single part on that drone to replace it on my own. So when I crash it, and I eventually will, and I break an arm, I get on their website, I place an order, a couple of days later the arm shows up, I can take it on my bench and change that arm out and be up flying that afternoon. All the other companies, if you break something, especially if it's something delicate, you've got to box it up, send it back to the company, wait a couple of weeks, expensive repairs. If you're lucky enough to find a local guy, you don't know how long it's going to take to get it fixed. I'm a handy guy. I like the fact that if I break something, every piece I need for the Karma I can order online. And again, that innovative approach to customer service means that that's going to drive other companies to start looking at that model and saying, well, hey, they're selling a lot of aftermarket products or parts for their products, and people like that. People are fixing them themselves. Maybe we should start opening up a parts department and start selling that stuff direct to consumers. I think that's a breath of fresh air for me, and I'm hoping that it's inspiring to other drone companies out there. Not that I'm looking to crash it, but if I do crash it, I'd like to be able to get a hold of those parts and change them myself. The third reason I think that Karma deserves a second look has less to do with the product and more to do with the company. And it has to do with the ethics of the company. And it seems like nowadays, whenever major corporations are faced with some kind of decision about a product that hit the market that wasn't quite ready for prime time, there's a lot of discussions at the board level behind closed doors about, do we pull the product back through a recall, or is this something we can send parts out to the field and hope for the best? I was really, really impressed by GoPro's decision to say, look, we sold 2,500 of these drones. We've had a couple of incidents of them falling from the sky. We don't know why, but this is a really scary thing. Let's recall those drones. At a time when they were already taking grief for being late with the drone in a very competitive market right before the holidays, and we're really banking on Karma for their earnings in that quarter. So for somebody to sit down and have the chutzpah to go, we've got to recall these drones and we've got to give everybody every penny back, to me just speaks volumes of what kind of company we're dealing with there. So I want to support those kind of ethical companies as much as I can. And then the fact that they took the extra step of sending everybody who bought one that sent it back to them a free Hero 5 is just above and beyond what I consider to be decent customer service. So if you're not going to support them based on the technology and the quality of the product, or even the innovations they've built into the product, think about the ethical behavior of that company. I can probably name 5 other companies that would have viewed that as a major problem, and they would have tried to either offer partial refunds or had them sent back for repair and tied up time and money when flyers didn't have their quads in their hands. I like the fact that they made a decision, they moved forward with it, and they stuck to their words. The fact that they fixed the problem, which turned out to be a really simple thing, and I've talked about this in previous videos, it turns out that the battery maybe wasn't as tightly mounted as it should have been inside the drone. And when they did certain maneuvers or through the vibrations of the quad, the battery backed out just enough where the quad lost power and it came down. That's not a major problem. It wasn't like software failed them or they had some major stress issues with the quad. It was a problem they probably should have caught. Maybe they did rush it through testing a little faster than they should, but I'm willing to forgive that because it's their first attempt at a market. They really have never built anything like it before. And I've said in other videos that building a quad that's intelligent, that flies like the quads do today with all the built-in features, that's a moon launch kind of thing. That's a second or third generation get it right kind of thing. So I was willing to forgive some of the problems, but what really impressed me with these guys is the fact that from an ethics perspective, they said, we got a problem, we can duck and run, or we can deal with it, and they dealt with it. So they should be supported for that if nothing else. Okay, this next reason is probably the most important reason I'm going to discuss today of why I think the GoPro people deserve our support with this Karma re-release. It has to do with the community. And we're in a kind of a ticklish place right now with quads. This hobby's been growing up pretty slowly for a lot of years. Seems to have exploded in the last year where everybody and his brother's buying a quad now. The public is keenly aware of these quads, which means the government's keenly aware. It also means the local municipalities are keenly aware. So what that means for us is that everybody that sees a quad and is afraid of a quad wants to regulate a quad. And the less companies that are in the market, the less of a voice we have with those regulations. So I think for 2 reasons, Karma is a really important product to be back on the market. The primary reason is the competition, which is good for everybody. So Karma being kind of a unique product, kind of pushing the boundaries, will do 2 things immediately. It'll drive other companies to continue to innovate. It'll also drive other companies to chase a price point, which may be lower. If they didn't have competition, it may have been higher. So I think having competition in the market space helps to set the price that everybody's got to kind of race to. I think it definitely drives competition among other companies. Now, Karma already has a bunch of existing companies, right? They've got DJI, certainly King of the Hill there. They've got Unique. They've got Cheerson. There's probably 30 companies that are in the market today in different degrees of success. So they've got a lot of sort of existing companies to compete with. I guarantee you some of the big players that I've got on the screen right now are in the wings waiting, and they're waiting to see how the market evolves. They're waiting to see how the regulations evolve. If the regulations become onerous, they may not jump into the market. But if we continue to grow as a hobby the way we've been growing over the last year, I guarantee you that the 3 that I'm talking about up here right now, Apple, Intel, and our good friends at Samsung, are looking hard at this market. So there may be other competition coming in for GoPro and the other guys that I mentioned before that are existing drone manufacturers. But I think, again, that competition is good because it spurs research. It makes those companies start thinking about what's the next thing they're going to invent. How do I stay ahead of the competition? So that's a really healthy thing. The second part of that, which I talked about earlier, is the fact that the more people that are having this conversation, especially the bigger people that are having this conversation, the harder it is for governments, local municipalities, parks and rivers and things like that to ban the flight of drones. And I think the more people that are talking about drones in a very positive fashion, the more big names we have involved with quads and drones, the better it is for all of us. So even if you're not a fan of GoPro, you hate the Karma, you want to make fun of the product, it helps us to support them because having another company of their stature with international recognition in that market space means they've got lawyers and lobbyists and public relations people that are out preaching the good stuff about quads, which again helps all of us. So it's sort of a scratch my back, I'll scratch your situation. And I'm a fan of that kind of behavior. I'm a huge fan, a radical fan of competition because I think competition, again, at the core is the healthiest thing that can happen in a free market. So for no other reason, let's support them based on that competition perspective. This last reason I think it's important for our community to support this reintroduction of Karma is a little more subtle, but it's not any less important than the first four that I talked about. In some ways, it may be the most important reason, and it has to do with the GoPro Passenger App. Now, if you don't know much about the Karma or their software, what the GoPro Passenger App allows people to do is if I'm flying with the controller and I'm looking at the screen, I'm actually in control of the quad and I'm seeing what's coming through the camera, it allows somebody else to download this application and immediately bind with that controller so they're on their phone or tablet viewing exactly what I see through my camera. Now that's a wonderful way for me to share that experience with my wife, my kids, my family, friends, or if I'm in a park and I've got somebody curious about quads, to have them grab the application and bind with my controller so they and their family can sit there and watch what I'm flying is an amazing experience. And I think it's a queasy time right now for people with quads. The opinions about quads in the general public are all over the place. And honestly, the knee-jerk reaction to a quad flying is, I don't like them. They're noisy. They're an invasion of privacy. I don't want them anywhere near me. That's the initial reaction most people have to quads. So every time I can turn somebody around by showing them the beauty of what I'm filming and the amazing feeling you get watching that bird in the air and seeing what that bird can see, is a home run. It turns people around. So as a community, we really need to do all we can to be ambassadors for the community, to turn people around on their opinions of quads and show them the positive side of what the hobby can provide. So at a very subliminal level, it allows me to convince another person through the visual presentation of what I'm doing that this is a cool thing to do. So that's the first reason. The second reason is that this kind of innovation drives other companies to be innovative. So had this never happened, the other companies could sit back in a boardroom someplace and say, yeah, it'd be kind of cool to have that. We're not spending a dime on it. Nobody's asking for it. But by this product being introduced into the market, especially if flyers like it and consumers like it, and they start beating up the company that they're fans of and say, hey, how come they can do it and you can't do it? That level of competition drives innovation. So pretty soon it becomes commonplace in the market. So I think there are two reasons that it's important. Again, the first one is the social aspects of it, the fact that I can use it as a digital ambassador, for lack of a better term, with the public to introduce them to what the experience of flying a quad is. And the second is that it's a competitive thing where it's going to drive other people to develop similar software. So anyway, I think that's really important. All right, so that's all I really had today with the clip. I know I went on a little longer than I should have, but I feel like the Karma product was unique when it hit the market. I was disappointed that it didn't really stay in there and it had some issues and had to be recalled. I'm delighted that it's coming back, and you guys know that I fly a lot of different quads, and I don't really work for any company, so I look at a lot of new technology. I compare them side by side. I'll do some comparisons with the Karma once it hits the street. I think you can pre-order them now, so if you're still interested in that, get on their website and start ordering those Karmas up. If you're a GoPro person, you probably already have made the decision that it's something you want to look at. But for me, I'm big on competition. I'm big on choices, having the ability to look at a lot of different products and pick the one that I like and the one that fits the need for what I'm doing that particular day. And I think Karma, for all the reasons I've mentioned, is a really unique product that deserves at least a shot at the market space, and then the consumer will decide whether it's going to live or die. But I think as a community, the more we can do to endorse it and at least open the door for it to come back would be a good thing. So anyway, if you have any questions, anything I missed, drop them in the comments below. I'll get back to you as quickly as I can. I love the thumbs up. The thumbs down are a little bit tough, so if you do that, at least give me a comment, let me know what I did wrong, and I'll try and correct it in the next clip. But I enjoy doing these, and I'm hoping you're finding value in them, as I always say, and I'll continue to do them. So thanks an awful lot for watching, and happy flying.